Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Norton number TBGN134-38690. This is a package of 4 TBGN, Thru Bolt and Grommet Nut is what TBGN stands for. 134 would be the thickness of the door naturally. 3/8 probably has something to do with the reference to the diameter that you're going to drill for the female side. You're going to get 4 stove bolts, just 1/4-20 machine bolts with an oval head, number 3 Phillips drive. Okay, they're meant for an 1 3/4 thick door. If you have a thinner door, no problem. Cut those down a little bit. Not a big deal. The Grommet Nuts, there are 4 of them. Okay, and they're through bolts for door closers is what they are. There are multiple ways to mount a door closer. To a door you can use obviously just, a wood door is going to be just properly pre-drilled, and that wood's thread style screw is going to go into your reinforced wood door. Or in a hollow metal door, you'll have your machine screws and you'll drill and tap into your reinforced metal door. If you don't have a reinforced door, you'll probably want to consider immediately through bolting it with through bolt and grommet nuts or sex bolts. Sex bolts can be done as well. Through bolt and grommet nuts are simply less common than sex bolts, and I can't really say why. Other people would elect not to use through bolt and grommet nuts compared to sex bolts. I know why I wouldn't. A sex bolt's a better design because of the way that it has a large shoulder on it, so that when you tighten the screw down, you won't collapse or crush your door in. With a through bolt and grommet nut, the tighter that you make this, the more propensity there will be for the door to cave in or crush in a little bit. So you have to be mindful when you're doing through bolt and grommet nuts. So that's what this is. These can be ordered obviously for different thicknesses of doors. This is in the 690 finish, which is a dark bronze. Now let's take some basic dimensional properties of the item. I'll show you a cut sheet as well. So the OD of the male portion is 0.247. The OD of the head of the grommet nut is 0.626 or 0.627, but this area here, 364. Okay, so nominally you would drill a 3/8 hole from the outside and a 1/4 inch hole from the inside. I'd probably be tempted to make the closer side a little bit larger than that, maybe 5/16, just so you have a small amount of movement on the door. When you put that drill bit to the door, that drill bit has a tendency to walk a little bit if you've not used a center punch. So definitely use a center punch. You want those holes drilled very accurately in place. But the point is that you'll drill a 3/8 hole over here, and that head will hold the closer onto the door using this method of mounting. Let's switch to the screen view and take a closer look at some supporting documentation. Okay, here we are. Not much to see here, although we do have some photographs that we can take a look at. Okay, and here are those photographs. Package of 4. That's what it looks like, obviously, when it's assembled. The side opposite the closer body. Okay. Now, there is a link also below this video to the cut sheet that's here. And that document is here. Basically just shows what it looks like. And it will show you how the part number changes as your door thickness changes. And again, just the length of the bolt. Actually, I did not measure the length of this bolt, so let's do so now. The overall length of the bolt for the 1 3/4 version is about 2 1/8. 2 1/8 is the overall length from the head to the end of the bolt. So 1 3/8, 1 3/4, 2 1/4. Listen, it's a 1/4 20 bolt. So whatever you need, I suppose, is what's going to work here. Be mindful, you'll want to use the factory original parts if you're putting this onto a fire-rated door. Now, the sex bolts I had mentioned earlier are here because it's, in my estimation, a more common application, a better way to install these for 2 reasons. As you can see, the sex bolt is cut short, but to the right length, so that the length of the unit is indeed the inside cavity of the door, so that when you tighten the bolt, you're not crushing the door in, where you can run that risk with this type of door. Okay, and also these little lines here are splines on the end of it, and they will prevent the female portion from turning, as this may do when you're tightening that bolt down. Okay, so a little cut sheet here. Now, there is a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Norton products we stock by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog, which I would recommend that you review. The name Norton has been synonymous with door closers for, I don't know, 100 years, or longer. The name Norton was associated with LCN and is the N in LCN. You can probably easily look up the history of LCN and Norton and see how their paths were intertwined at some point. But suffice it to say that Norton manufactures a full complement of door closers. This happens to be what we would call a traditional closer. It's also known as a potbelly closer. So if someone says potbelly, that's what they mean. In reference to a closer, this is what they mean. That sort of looking traditional closer. You don't see them often in new installation because A, they're very expensive, B, they're grade 3, okay, C, they're not handicap compliant, okay. The only place I've really seen these in new construction is when they're going for, well, actually 2 places, where they're going for a look. There's a steakhouse in Chicago that they've got a couple dozen of these installed on doors that they literally never use. But they're functioning doors, but they're hardly ever used. Number 1. Number 2, I've sold this to production companies that are putting on television shows, and they're literally going for a traditional courtroom sort of look. So that's who buys these. Other people who buy these, I can't really say. If you walk into a building built in the 1950s and has original equipment, you might bump into a potbelly closer. That's where you see these. They've been manufactured for 100 years. Very outdated technology in the sense that you can't really control the closing or opening force. And again, they're just grade 3, which means they're only rated to 250,000 cycles. And in the world of door closers, that's quite paltry. Anyway, I love the look. It's a traditional look. And as you scroll through here, it's just going to be, 400 pages of door closers. So everything and more that you ever wanted to know about a door closer is in this catalog. There happens to be other encyclopedic documents that are on this page. An L.C. Norton patent from 1930. Okay, so that's clearly a potbelly closer. Patent of a potbelly closer. They obviously had something novel in 1926. Norton obsolete potbelly closers, how to identify Norton closers are here, etc. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. Okay, in conclusion, not much to really say about this otherwise, but if you need to through bolt a door, and if you have a door that's not reinforced, just putting in screws will fail probably within the first 10 tries. The screws will just rip out of the door. I've had people install things in closers onto hollow core wood doors and wonder why the screws came out. Because there's no reinforcement. And lacking reinforcement, the screw has nothing to hold on to, and people will damage the door in the process. So if you've ever walked into, and I've seen it, if you've ever walked into a bathroom and there's a block of wood, okay, on the side opposite the door closer body, yeah, they pulled on it, the screws ripped through, or actually the screws on the closer side. If you've ever seen the closer mounted over that wood block, it ripped out and obviously damaged the door. I've seen it on the other side as well, where they attempted something and it ripped out. So through bolted immediately. However, speaking of through bolts, be very mindful that just because these come in the package does not mean you're supposed to install them. So if you're doing a restaurant, probably not going to be too much concern over through bolts or not through bolts. But you'll want to look at the hardware schedule, the approved hardware submittals, to see exactly how the part number was called out. And if these are not in the part number, you may want to think twice before just installing them, because I've had people call and say, yeah, you know, those through bolts were in the package. Do I need to use those? And the question is because maybe they've installed one and they're like, yeah, that's reinforced. Do I have to do that? You know, why don't I just attach it to the reinforcement? Also, they might say, you know, I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to through bolt these. And it goes from questioning it to not questioning it. And the reason why you're going to question it if you're unsure is, restaurant, again, probably no big deal. But if you have a job where there's 3 pair of doors and, you know, surface vertical rod, concealed vertical rod exit devices everywhere, and the doors are pair matched, set matched, fire rated, an unusual veneer like anagray. If oak is $100, anagray is $1,000. You don't want to just assume you're going to through bolt all of those, because the architect will come up and say, what are all those little dots on the pull side of my doors? They paid for anagray for a reason, not to see the head of through bolts. So definitely question it if you are not sure. But looking at how the hardware was originally specified will give you the big tip-off in terms of whether or not, you know, sex bolts, through bolts, or however it was meant to be installed is the way that you're to proceed. Any questions on the TBGN134-38690 or any other Norton product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.